Dr. Carlos Jaico Carranza, believe it or not, speaks, I think, 4 languages, what I read in his bio. And we're going to do this segment in English for those that understand English, because again, United States, or mainly California or Los Angeles, everybody here is bilingual. Everybody here is probably about second generation, and I'm pretty sure they understand English and Spanish. And since this station is bilingual, also my paper is bilingual, we're going to cover this segment in English. And again, if I'm free, I think Dr. Carlos Jaico Carranza speaks French also, and English, Spanish, and the fourth one is
German.
German. Okay, Dr. Carlos Jaico Carranza. We were talking about the military service.
Right.
And I almost laughed because you said something about this, the typical Peruvian would come from the mountains and come to the coast and be like a servant to the generals.
Mm-hmm.
I came here in the 60s to the United States, and I not escaped, because in Peru, when you are in the secondary school, if you have completed the military services in the school, you don't have to go out to the army.
Mm-hmm.
But I witnessed people exactly from the mountains coming and then going to the military service to serve their country. Now, when you say that, of course, these people come there and they are servants to the generals and mayor and you name it, but digamos, let's say the corruption, what's happening right now with the youth in Peru was not as extent as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
The crimes has increased 100%, and I would think, thanks to the military service, this youth or young people that were growing up with all these things to do what they are doing right now, was not as much as it is now. So, and you are telling me still that you wouldn't believe that, or how would you solve that?
Yeah, we have to be clear in what are the goals of the army. And in our country, the goal of the army was not a goal of unification of our country in terms of ethnics, because, as you mentioned, we have people coming from the Cordillera de los Andes, for example, or people coming from Puno or Iquitos, Amazonas on the north. But we need to unify these people. We need to tell to these young that they have a land really vast and nice, and they have to understand what, for example, the people from Tacna in the south believes, and what people from Tumbes believe in the north. So we have to unify first. That's the first goal of an army. Unify people. The second point, we have to think as well that we speak Quechua. We speak Quechua, and many of our people that doesn't speak Quechua. They don't just speak Quechua. And for example, another goal of the army could be to send these people in the Cordillera de los Andes and to learn Quechua, to learn how they live, to learn their culture. That's a question of unification of our country, because now we are divided. We are completely divided, and we are just pushing this Spanish language around the country without taking into account the differences we have. So I think we have another goals more than educate the youngs as because they don't behave in the way we can wish. But I think the goal must be unification of our country. That's why we believe that a military service must be not of 2 years, must be of 6 months, full 6 months, but there the young can understand the reality of our country and be part of our development.
And be proud to serve.
That's right.
Not necessarily like a punishment.
That's right. This is
you talk about the Quechua. In 1976, Velasco Ibarra, the president then, he approved a law that the Quechua and Castellano should be the law to teach Quechua everywhere.
That's right.
And nevertheless, the system hasn't followed up in Peru. Why do you think that is? Since Velasco, we have had, I think, 3 presidents after that, and none of them have ignored this law. It's in the Constitution,
Absolutely.
part of the Constitution there, in Article 1 and Article 2, where it says this is declared a language as much as the Castellano, Spanish, to be taught in secondary schools.
The question here is that in Peru we have been just acting as Spaniards more or less, and leaving aside the Quechua people, and that's one point that we have to really think about. So when Velasco came, he said, I'm going to unify the people, so making this mandatory to speak Quechua and Spanish. But why this measure failed? You know why? Because Quechua is not one language, it's a family of languages. It's a family. So the Quechua you speak, for example, in Cusco is not the same as in Huancayo or Arequipa.
You're right.
Yeah, and the problem came from there, from inside the Quechua. And always, for example, people from Cusco, they believe they use 5 vocals, and the other people think that they have to use 3 vocals. And that's the problem, the main problem inside the language. So how we unify a language when people inside, they don't want to be unified. Yeah. So that's one of the projects of Cambia Peru, is to begin with the Quechua as a lingua franca, a kind of language everybody can understand and everybody can speak around, so in all Peru. And that's one of the points we are working since 2007 and telling the people, our people, the Quechua people, we need to talk one language and we need to understand us first with one lingua franca. And that's what we have to do in this century.
This way, the people in the mountains would understand better what's going on.
That's right. And even foreigners, somebody from the States, for example, wanting to learn Quechua, he can go there and he can learn Quechua without a problem. But now the problem is when you want to learn Quechua, what kind of Quechua you want to learn first?
Right. Yeah,
the Cusco one, the Huancayo one, the Moquegua one. So that's the main problem now. Yes. And other countries have solved this problem, unifying at least the roots of the language. But we don't have done this work.